For years, Mario Balotelli was a name caught between genius and chaos, a striker who could win a game and then lose it in the same breath. Many remember the noise, but what remains when the headlines fade and only the person is left? That's exactly where we're looking now. The beginning is faster than any explanation. In 2006, Inter bet on him, and just 1 year later, he was already in Serie A. At 16, he was already under observation by major European clubs. On the field, he seemed to have no fear of the moment, a natural confidence in front of goal, a directness that didn't sound like training, but like instinct. In a team that dominated Italy, that was a gift, but also a burden. Because while Inter seemed stable, Balotelli quickly began clashing with his surroundings. Talent attracts expectations, and expectations leave little room for growth. How do you remain a person when you become a projection screen as a teenager? How do you learn patience when everyone just wants to see the next proof? During this phase, there were great moments, even on the international stage, that showed why many considered him special. At the same time, a pattern emerged that would accompany him for a long time. Football gives him the stage, but the stage demands a price. You can see the talent, but you also feel the pressure. Inter wins, the schedule is packed, expectations grow heavier. For a young player, this can feel like a tailwind. For him, it felt more like a storm driving him forward without him controlling the direction. And that's exactly why the question that would so often recur later began. What happens when a player becomes bigger than the piece in his own head? In 2009, this pressure became visible, hitting him from several sides. From the stands came racist hostility, which not only insulted but dehumanized. Anyone who experiences something like that carries it with them, even if they appear tough on the outside. At the same time, conflicts within the club escalated, especially with Jose Mourinho. Inter functioned like a machine, but Balotelli didn't fit into every gear. It wasn't just about tactics or discipline. It was about friction, about pride, about the feeling of not being understood. One moment stands out. He threw his jersey to the fans. For some, that was disrespect. For others, it was the moment you see how much closeness can turn into distance when a person is already inwardly retreating. In 2010, the break came. Balotelli transferred to Manchester City in a deal worth approximately $36 million. A new club, a new league, a new promise. But can you truly start over when old wounds are still open? Or do you always carry your own struggles with you, no matter how far the path leads? This is precisely where his story becomes a question that still resonates with many today. How much of it was external pressure, and how much was a battle against himself? At City, he experienced sporting highlights, especially under Roberto Mancini. There were nights when he seemed untouchable, and a hat trick against Aston Villa that showed how brutally effective his talent could be when everything was right. Then you saw the striker everyone expected, clear, determined, dangerous. But simultaneously, the other side ran its course. Suspensions, outbursts, 4 red cards. Again and again that brief spark, then the next break, until the club's patience was exhausted. With him, it rarely seemed to be just about football. It was about control, about boundaries, about the feeling that one wrong second could make everything fall apart. In 2013, he returned to Italy to AC Milan, a fresh start that sounded like reconciliation. 2014 followed with Liverpool, intended as a new chance, as proof that he could stabilize himself once more. After that, his path became more turbulent. Back to Milan, then Nice, then Marseille. There were always glimpses of brilliance, but they never lasted long enough to form a consistent trajectory. In 2019, he went to Brescia, his adopted home, as if he wanted to return once more to where life was less about a stage and more about solid ground under his feet. How many second chances does a person actually get? And what's harder, to fail or to know that it could have worked at any time? Today, his life is quieter, Balotelli lives in Toscolano on Lake Garda, between gentle hills and the serene presence of the water. His house doesn't feel like a monument, but like a place that slows things down. No atmosphere of confinement or excess. Inside, much is open plan. The kitchen, dining area, and living room flow together, as if the space doesn't want to impress, but to soothe. Large windows draw in light, almost dissolving the boundary between indoors and outdoors. Daily life isn't displayed, it's simply lived. At the back, the house discreetly shares a wall without feeling cramped. The impression remains: air, order, tranquility. Upstairs, it becomes more intimate. Rooms that invite stillness. Balconies where you don't have to put on a show, but can simply breathe. Everything seems designed to lower the pulse. Additionally, there's an area described as particularly personal: a secluded room with a fireplace, a wine nook, and outdoor zones meant for meals and conversations without constantly watching the clock. The garden and pool feel like additions, not dominant features. This home doesn't say, "Look at me." It says, "Let me settle in." But is retreat here a sign of peace or a form of self-protection after years when everything was too loud? His car collection is described like a mirror of his phases. The Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio stands for immediate reaction and emotion, with a price tag of about $5,000. The Bentley, around $220,000, feels like control, weight, calm. The Nissan GT-R R35 Nismo, close to $210,000, represents uncompromising energy. And the Maserati Gran Turismo, approximately $150,000, for elegance and a slower glide. Not a perfect collection, rather an honest one. Each car feels like a chapter, not "this is how I want to appear," but "this is how I feel." Financially, much came quickly for him. His net worth is estimated at about $80 million. At Manchester City, his annual salary was around $9 million, with bonuses and image rights up to $15 million per season. At Milan, about $6.5 million is mentioned, later closer to $4 million. A monthly rent of £14,000, approximately $220,000 per year, as well as a property in Chester for around $6 million, come up. Today, annual income from appearances and similar activities is estimated at around $500,000. The numbers seem like a balance sheet, but for him, they mainly tell a story of pace, how quickly everything can come, and how hard it is to maintain it. And then there's philanthropy, not as a show, but as a consequence of his own story. Support against racism in Italy is discussed, with $500,000. Also, direct aid, without major campaigns, estimated between $300,000 and $400,000 for educational and sports projects for children of African descent. During the COVID-19 period, sums like $50,000 and later about $250,000 are mentioned. At the same time, his daily life is described as more disciplined. Daily training, not just physical but also mental. Fashion is mentioned as another space for expression, as are appearances, events, and collaborations with major brands. In 2017, his son is mentioned, and with that, a boundary he protects. Since then, he has shown himself to be more conscious, choosing more carefully when to be visible and when not. So what remains when the noise quiets down? The scandal or the person behind it? And do you think Balotelli has found peace or just a new way to protect himself? Write it in the comments. If you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories.